I hired out my weaknesses and the things I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what you have to do. I don't know if that's normal. I think that's a normal thing for great business owners, but I don't think the regular person thinks that way. Because I think the average person who maybe turned into a business owner but isn't a good one is just like, okay, how do I just keep the most money? Right? Like they don't actually think about like what drives this business to be better, which drives more profit, which is really just all the right people in the right places.
Welcome back to another episode of the Advisor Journey Podcast. I'm your co-host, Desarte Yarnway, along with my partner in wealth, Will Steiner. Will,
hello.
How you doing?
Great.
Good to see you, bro.
You too.
I like that shirt. We got Thomas Kopelman in here today. Thomas, how you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm excited to be here with you guys. I feel like I'm hanging out with just two friends on the podcast. This is awesome.
It's awesome, man, and it's awesome to have you back. I feel like every time you're on the show, something new and exciting happens. So last time you were on the show, this is what I remember, okay? I want to say that was like 2020.
Is it like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay, so 23, 20, something like that. 23, we'll just say 23. You were like cracking the code with Twitter, having clients come inbound,
Yep.
right? And really like carving out a lane for yourself. And it's funny because all of the like Tech Bro podcasts that I listen to, all of the hosts follow you and they have massive reaches, right? So you're doing something right? And it's a new way of doing things. A lot of advisors are stuck in the old way of doing things. And I always love having you on the show because you educate people that, you know, you don't have to do it that way.
Yeah.
Just because it was done that way doesn't mean it has to continue to be done that way. So
Well, it's funny because yesterday I was just on Twitter and some younger advisor was asking, you know, hey, do you just tweet and, you know, have videos and is that how you grow your firm? Because I must be doing something wrong. And this other advisor is like, I've been in the industry for 38 years. You don't need to do anything on social media. And I was like, what you did 38 years ago is very different than what you do today. I don't know if that's who I'd be taking advice from.
yeah, well, let's start there, right? I think, you know, advisors that got into business 38 years ago probably stopped having to recruit clients or like prospect clients 20 years ago.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of weird that you come from a place where you're not even prospecting anymore and you're saying you don't have to do something.
Well, and the buyer preferences have totally changed. Like the way people evaluate, or at least the way the, you know, let's say the Gen X millennial clientele is evaluating a decision of like, hey, what advisor am I going to select for myself? They're on social media.
Right.
They're looking for content. You know, they're getting great content from social media. Like you're there doing your thing. People feel like they're getting to know you, you know, and that's happening at scale.
Totally. And I think one thing that's maybe a little unique for me is the audience I serve. So like, I do think the younger audience, you know, there's a lot of research out there that almost all audiences still find their advisor online. But I think with my audience, you know, who I work with right now is typically like average age 40, typically a business owner or super highly compensated employee. They might be like head lawyer at a publicly traded company, or they might be like, you know, just in that space or business owner. And the problem is referrals don't work for them because their network, their friends, their family are not in the same space they are, right? They're like, you know, hey, best friend's over there. He does pretty well. Maybe he makes a few $100,000 a year. I make $2 million a year. His financial advisor is not the right financial advisor for me. So they have to go out and search for that right person. And that makes social media even more valuable to the audience I serve.
So they're looking for you.
Yeah.
And you just make it easy for them to find you.
Because a lot of people, they know they need help. And they just are like, you know, I'm building my business. Life is really busy. All of a sudden something happens. I need to think about my finances, but then I don't. I go back to, you know, running my business. And I just know that I have this problem over my head where I just need somebody to help me figure this out. And eventually, right, they are like, oh my gosh, I got to figure it out. Who am I going to go to? They're going to go to the person that they've learned the most from that's never asked anything from them in return.
Or they're going to go to someone, they'll pick someone and be potentially like very underwhelmed because the needs of this audience that you're, you know, the niche that you've chosen here are so specific. Like they're so different than the sort of the
and
average. Time intensive. Yeah. I feel like you've really, I don't know, how do you think about your role with these people? Is it like is it a CFO? I mean, it's so much more, I think, than, you know, to like a couple retirees, you know, former W-2 employees. Like, what is your role?
I think the unique part about it is different for everybody. I think, what I've found for most of the people we work with, and I would say my ideal audience is business owners. So I'm going to stay in that lane. What I found is for business owners, the number one pain point they have is they do not understand how to manage their cash flow because they don't understand what they are going to owe for taxes, right? Maybe they file their taxes, their tax person's like, here's safe harbor for the year. That's really great if you made $800,000 last year, but if this year you're making $2 million and all you did was plan for safe harbor, you're going to have issues. So what happens with the business owners is they sit there and they hoard this cash, right? That's one option. They hoard cash. April rolls around, they pay it, and they go back to hoarding cash. So they never get to make any decisions. They don't know what to distribute, how to use those dollars, or vice versa. They distribute way too much money, and then all of a sudden tax time comes around and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have this money available. What do I do? Maybe now I'm selling investments. And imagine if you're selling your investments right now to fund your taxes, you'd be in a bad spot. So I said, okay, great. We're going to solve that problem. I brought on a tax professional, right? We're going to give you safe harbor. We're going to tell you what you're going to owe above it. We're going to do that 3 to 4 different times a year. And then the next problem after that is, okay, then how do we use that money, right? So we're going to take money out of the business. How do we use it? Well, first we got to know your expenses, right? Most advisors sit down with somebody and say, what's your expenses? I can tell you they don't know, but advisors will just tell them and say, great, $20,000 a month, I'm going to run with that. I said, that's not going to work. We're going to go through and we're going to sort through your expenses and we're going to figure out what you spend every single month. For most business owners, they're in a deficit, right? From monthly cash flow, they're in a deficit. Quarterly distributions or semi-annual or yearly is what makes up for that. Great. We take that, we figure out what needs to be kept for what you're going to spend per year. And then what are your goals, right? We're going to go through your goals. Now we're going to figure out how much we need to allocate from there. And then we're going to figure out what we can invest from there.
Yeah.
So I just don't think you can do good financial planning without knowing what you make, what you spend, what goes to taxes, what your goals are, and then you can make decisions.
You see, you're solving problems, right? That's our job. The job as a financial advisor, go in and help somebody solve their problems. But a lot of advisors are trying to solve for efficiency. How can I bring as many people into the fold as possible so I can increase my revenue? And that's the wrong way to go about it. So I heard a couple things from you based on what you said. I just want to repeat them for the audience. Number one, you got to get in the weeds. You got to get in the details and get almost intimate with your clients because if you don't do it, no one will. And they'll be recycling the same behavior year after year after year. The only way to break that cycle is by getting the details. Number two, your job as an advisor is almost to lower the information gap because then people can make better financial decisions. And I think that's one of the things that tax people do sometimes, teach me something so I know how to move, going forward, right? And I think that's a very honorable and noble thing that you're doing by getting in the details because that takes time.
Yeah,
and then lowering that gap. So now I know how to play this game.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that I did that I would say I'm proud of is I didn't just serve how a traditional financial advisor serves. And I think most people are like, great, how do a normal advisory firm work? What are the regular employees do you have? And then, great, that's how we're going to do it. Yeah. What I said is, how do we have to help these people and how do we build around that, right? So tax was an issue. We're bringing on a licensed tax professional to help solve that, right? And then, hey, their tax team isn't coordinating with them. We need to remind them and tell them how to do quarterly taxes. Hey, they don't want to share information between us and their tax person. We're going to get agreements set up and we're going to share all the info with their tax team, do meetings kind of behind their back, et cetera. But, there isn't really a traditional way to look up and say, how do you work with a 40-year-old high net worth business owner? There isn't a model to do it. And so every year I just take more data, right? What are my clients saying that they value the most? And what I found that they value the most is having somebody there for them the second they need it. So a couple things I do. One is I do no client meetings till noon. So anytime something's pressing for any of my clients, I have availability for them in the morning, right? You need help getting your backdoor Roth done, whatever question pops up, we'll do it. The other thing is every morning I respond to every client email. At the end of the day, I respond to every client email. There's not a single client who will have to go more than really 12 hours without a response to what they're facing because everybody has just been like, oh my gosh, I'm blown away by how quick you respond. My tax person takes 3 weeks. And I'm like, great, I'm going to help you face the issue in the moment, which means I need more people doing more background work so I can spend more time with you, answering your questions, helping you face what you're facing.
So, okay, one, how sustainable is that as you grow? But then, it sounds like you are filling, where there are holes or where there's administrative work or busy work. It's like you're hiring people to do those things. So, I guess my second question is what percentage of your time is client facing? Because they're industry stats here, you know, and they're like embarrassingly low or unfortunately low, I would say.
Mine's over 50% of my time. So I have about 22 client meetings a week. And I'd say maybe
That's crazy.
I'd say
22
probably
a week?
Yeah.
Wow.
Especially in our busy season. So like we're just coming out of a busy season. I have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, noon to 5, Friday about 11 to 3. Monday afternoon, I do prospect meetings. And if I have any urgent need, then I'll do a couple extra meetings on a Monday. But I would say 90% of my time is spent on client work or with clients. And I think that's what is a little different. Like my operations person handles so much of the background stuff, scheduling, client agreements, you know, client accounts, like all of the stuff that is low hourly wage, but are a lot of tasks that need to get done. So I can spend time giving advice. And then my EA, enrolled agent, is a financial planner. So he goes through cash flow, he maps out the taxes, he reads through the documents, gives everything to the point where I'm saying, here's the decisions that we need to make. Let me review and get the financial plan out. You go put it into a good visual. I will talk about it with clients. And so like my time is all really in this high level where we're adding a ton of value and not in the background area. And so when you talk about scalability, we have 100 clients right now. So I think it's pretty scalable. If I can do this with 100 people and still have free time, I'll probably hire one more background person over time to help, you know, me even do the lower stuff than my EA. But you know,
then you need another you.
Maybe
like, if you want that, I guess. If like, what's the goal? Like, do you have something in mind that's like you're striving for?
It's funny, I talk about this all the time because, you know, 3 years ago, I just wanted to be a solo advisor. And then I grew and then I was like, now I have a team and I love the team. But right now, you know, it's really hard to decide if I do want to scale it and grow because that would be drive down profit, have a higher sale value. Right now, All Street this year will probably do 1.5 million in revenue with like 1-2 in profit. So it's like, that's a pretty good life. You know, I can do anything I want. You have all the personal income you could ever really want. Sale value is probably at the end of this year close to $10 million. At that level, there's still all the untapped AUM because we are flat fee mostly. And so I'm like, do I want to do that or do I want to be a people manager? And at this point, I don't know. So my thought is the best thing to do is build my business. Build it, have a great revenue, have a great client base. And if I decide that I want to, which I don't know. Right now, my thought is I just raise fees. Year ends, you raise your fees higher. I'll lose 20 clients. I'll fill that with 20 clients who are at that higher fee. Same thing every single year, right? And then eventually you get this core, probably 125, 150 clients who are paying probably $25,000 a year. So, you know, we have a $2.5 to $3 million revenue business. Life's really good. I pay my team really well. They enjoy life. I get a lot of flexibility. Or I replicate what I built. I learned that we can serve this group with a director of operations, a tax financial planner, and a lead advisor. I bring you on, I'll give you all the clients. Everybody's gonna have a niche. We're gonna have, you know, lawyers, we're gonna have doctors, we're gonna have equity comp, we're gonna have solopreneurs, we're gonna have larger businesses, and I will replicate those teams, and I'll be the high net worth advisor. I'll serve the highest net worth 50 clients with the team around me. So I know the vision if I do scale. I'm just not doing it until I know I want to scale.
Yeah, that's a good decision. I think that people should take time to make those big decisions because largely your life is going to change when you make decisions, right? I don't think people think enough about like where they're going to live, you know what I mean? How they want to run their business, these different things that ultimately have this trickle-down effect to everybody associated with them in their life, right?
And I learned that working with business owners, right? I watch a lot of business owners make decisions that make them hate their business.
Exactly.
Right? So that could be part private equity sale, right? Like I ran this business, it was amazing. Now I have a board of people telling me what to do, how to do it, go in areas I don't want. Sometimes they even fire you, right? And so I see those and I'm like, is the pursuit of more, which might not even be more, right? You're going to lose income probably in that situation. You're going to get sale value. But if my only goal was sale value and retirement, like I'd sail off into the sunset tomorrow. Like that's where the business
key man
is
risk,
at.
I'd say. I don't know if you could sail off with, you know.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
you can,
do.
I mean-
In advisory businesses, it's all the revenue, right? I would stay on for 2 or 3 years. I would teach an advisor the exact way that we work with those clients. Like the clients really like working with me, but they really like having the value that we provide.
Right.
So if I can bring somebody to provide that value, and if key man risk was the thing, then I wouldn't be able to replicate what I do.
Right.
If people only want to work with me, and I don't think that's true. I think people see me and they say, I want what Thomas is doing for his clients. And if I say, I brought you in, you're a highly compensated person in equity comp. Here's Chris. Chris is amazing at equity comp. I brought him on because he's the best in the industry at this. That's who you're going to work with. They're going to be like, great. I don't know anybody else who's going to specialize and help me on it. So I think there'll always be key man risk, but every business there kind of is a person who drove that business, and you
and that's the risk.
Right?
You got to be comfortable with it.
Yeah, I would tweak my marketing to be more about the firm and about the people and about what we're building, and that we are the best planning firm for high net worth 40-year-olds.
Yeah,
right.
I think Root does that right now, James Cano, right? So he's like the figurehead essentially, right?
Totally, and he's not working with clients at all.
Yeah, and he's just bringing it in, and he matches it with the advisors. I want to talk about the economics here, right? Because obviously, actually, you had a great article in Kitsis. Was that last year? Or were you on the podcast?
That was like a year and a half ago, and that's what's funny coming back to, because that I was at $18,000 a month in revenue at that point when that article came out.
Okay, so that article came out. Kitsis went online and said, "Hey, Thomas Kopelman, the greatest thing on earth. He has social media on lock, right? 500,000 run rate revenue, and it's going to be a big deal. Obviously, you've matured into that. Talk to us about just how you 1.5 with 1.2 in profit is crazy. So paying your team, the way you structure everything is like, tell us about that, because a lot of advisors aren't running that lean.
Yeah.
And for the amount of depth that you're going into it with your clients, from the detail, right, getting into the weeds. And I've watched you personally build the team around you and sacrifice income to be able to give back to your team. Take us through that journey on how you do that, because that's a very high profit rate that most businesses would never achieve. Like if you're in the startup space and you're doing 10% profit, like you're good. If you're doing 50% profit in the startup space, you're great, right? Yeah. So to be doing that level of profit is...
I think service businesses are different, right? Like than a tech firm or somewhere else. Like, I mean, it's like fees matter, right? When I was at that point of $18,000 a month, my average fee was closer to like $350, $450 a month. Right now, we take on 5 households every single month. You know, we're recording at the start of April. April's booked, May's booked, June's booked, and we already have 2 clients in July booked. So we're 17 clients ahead. And almost at all times, we're somewhere between 12 and 20 clients ahead booked out. So one, that helps me. And the fees are high, right? So when we bring on 5, 3 of them are $18,000 a year before any assets, and 2 of them are at 12. So if you think about that, that's what, 54, that's 76,000 of added revenue of ARR per month. So we're able to scale really, really quick. When I hired my team members, one of them is a director of operations. She worked with Justin and me before I left Justin.
Darlene.
Yep, Darlene took a different job. And as soon as I knew that, and she was like not that happy, I was like, she reached out to me, she said, "Hey, I saw somebody you know is hiring for this role." I'm like, "No, I'm hiring you." And she was like, "Oh, really?" I was like, "Yes. Like, what do you need to be paid? I'm going to hire you today. I know you're amazing at your job. I want to hire the best people, and I want you to stay forever." And so I always check in. Every 6 months I give them a salary increase. I give them a bonus every 6 months. And then the other person I hired, I was like, I need tax. I know somebody really good at tax. He's an EA. He's commuting. He has a busy season. He's making $62,000. Great, I'm going to pay you 50% more than that in year 1. That's where you're going to end up. You're not going to be commuting. You're going to have no busy season. You're one of my great friends. We're going to have a super fun time doing this, and I'm going to give you equity over 5 years. And I'm going to keep scaling him up. I'm going to make sure he makes 25 to 50% more than he would make at any single time if he was still in tax. And, keeping those people really, really happy allows them to continue to want to do really, really good work for us.
There's a couple of things that you're saying that, startup professionals talk about often. First things first, it seems like you have a team of 3, right?
Yeah.
First, the per employee to revenue ratio is crazy, because you're doing 3 people. Everybody's doing well over $300,000, which is amazing. So congrats to you on that. Thanks. But a lot of people say, in terms of philosophy when it comes to hiring, you want to pay people handsomely and expect good things. And I think that's an approach that many advisors don't have, because how we go into it usually is like, I'm trying to squeeze all the dollars that I can out of this business, show high profits, and eventually have a sale, or I can pay myself more. And
then they lose those people, and then they retrain, and they take that time. And I know the last thing I want to do is retrain anybody, because how long it took me to train Ryan, my EA, to get to the point where he only just knew little tax. Like filing taxes is different than tax planning, which is different than financial planning, which is different than the process I do, which is different than how we present what we do. And so just now we're probably a year and a half in, and I'm like, he's 90% of the way there to knowing what I know.
Yeah, attrition is expensive.
So if he leaves, we're not as good as we were. My time, I'm doubling the work that I have to do. And so like when I hired, I didn't say like, here's the job, who am I going to hire? I said, I need you for this job. Come work with me.
Yeah, and that's a trait that a lot of CEOs have, right? I mean, Jason, for one, does it all the time.
Totally.
It's like, if you are going to be a visionary CEO building a generationally ambitious company, talent is a factor, right?
100%.
You have to have an eye for the best people and almost court them for a while to give them reason to come over and work with you. So I'm applauding you, one, for just the efficiency in the business, and two, just the amount of selflessness that it takes to run a business like that, because in that scenario, you're putting yourself last.
Well, I think the hard thing for me now is that like I make a lot of money, and the other people on there, like they percentage wise make significantly less than me. And so I think the hard part is looking like, I know these people, I like these people. Is it okay that I make 10x what they make, right? Like, even though they're making significantly more than the industry standard would be at their role, I think that, I don't know if that feels selfless, right? Like and I don't know how to do it.
Does it come up? Is it like a thing that just sort of exists quietly
They're so
in the
grateful.
background?
No, they're so grateful. He's like, when I was with, Ryan a little bit ago, and they're kind of talking about it, and he's like, I make 50% more every year. This is amazing.
Right.
But like still on my side, but then, people remind me, they're like, yeah, but you built a business. You took the risk. You drove in all the clients, right? The hardest part in this industry is growing, right? Like a fast growing RIA is 12 clients a year. We're growing at least 48. We could grow it more, but I'm adding a wait list because of scale. And so, I have to remind myself that, but I do want to do right by them, and I want to make sure they have a good life. I know they really enjoy their life because I give them all the freedom that, they want. Like Ryan's 2 weeks in Tokyo, or in Japan right now, just enjoying his life. Darlene's on vacation right now too. They can take whatever days off that they want. They can work when they want. They just got to get their work done. And so I want to create a good environment, but when I did hire them, it was scary. I will say, I remember I was planning for a long time to hire Ryan. We were a couple months away, and I was like, oh man, I'm scared. Like, we might have to push this back 6 months. Like, I don't know. And I was like, you know what? No, it's going to be okay, right? This is going to be good. And the same thing happened with Darlene. And then literally within 1 month, I replaced both their income with new clients. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, okay, great. Like, that feels good. Like, we're in a really good spot. But hiring is scary, but it's the best thing you can do because it makes you better, and it keeps you in the lane where I know I'm great at. Like, what Darlene does, I suck at. Like, all of the little tiny tasks, all the little documents, like making sure every client meeting is booked. Like, our CRM, I didn't even use until she got there. Now everything is put out there. And so she's in this lane where she's an A+, where I'd be a D. And what I do, she wouldn't be good at. And so we just get 3 A players in their lane. Like Ryan, not that good at talking to people. Like, he would not drive meetings. He doesn't want to be a lead advisor. He's amazing at getting in the weeds and doing the background work.
Do you think that awareness just exists for everyone? Or are there people who maybe haven't thought about, like, hey, if I break down the jobs to be done here, these are the ones where I'm going to shine and they give me energy, and these are the ones where I need to hire someone. I just think people, when they think about hiring, they're not coming at it from a particularly systematic approach. Like, is that how you would sort of categorize your approach to hiring?
I hired out my weaknesses and the things I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what you have to do. I don't know if that's normal. I think that's a normal thing for great business owners, but I don't think the regular person thinks that way. Because I think the average person who maybe turned into a business owner but isn't a good one is just like, okay, how do I just keep the most money? Right? Like, they don't actually think about like what drives this business to be better, which drives more profit, which is really just all the right people in the right places. And so you kind of come out of this side of scarcity. But I think all of this is, what makes me a better advisor for business owners. The practice that I get in running this business, I run All Street Academy, obviously helping on wealth and all that kind of stuff. But like, you learn on the job. Yeah, and so there's a lot of advisors who are not business owners that are helping business owners. And I just don't know how that's really possible.
Because they're using information as the sword, right, to win relationships. But sometimes when you're coming from a place of like being in the trenches, that advice carries more weight and you become more relatable. And it's almost, I believe in human advice. So being able to empathize with business owners is a big thing as well. So
you felt their pain points. You felt their hard times. You felt that fear of hiring the next person. And, last year, one of my business owners was really scared. He had a 1099 contractor who she had a really hard life. She's a single mom. She got a couple kids. It was not a livable wage. And she was like, I have to leave and take a different job unless you can move me to W-2, get me benefits, et cetera. And I was like, I've been there. I felt that fear, but I promise you, when you give her this, she's going to give way more back to you because you changed her life. You gave her the opportunity to take care of her kids. She can now afford a house that she could not afford. She's going to kill for you. And I actually just met with him last week, and he was like, that was the best advice I've ever given. She is the best person on my team. Our business has grown tremendously. She takes so much off my plate because he was worried. He's like, I hire her for 18 hours. I'm like, if you hire her full time, you will find more to give her. I promise you'll find more to give her. And he was like, I did. And it's been the best thing for me. And because I've been there, because I felt that fear, I could help tell him why that fear is actually not rational and why it's going to be better for him.
I mean, that's so powerful because like, you're getting beyond the like, hey, solo 401k, right? Or like
totally
cash flow. And it's like, you're in the realm of actual, small business strategy, which, to have that connection with your clients, like that firms up the relationship in a way that I'm sure for them was just totally unexpected too. Like I know, and like, I don't know if we're gonna have to do a disclosure here, but like I had seen so much of your content that when my dad, who is a small business owner, he's got a construction business in Portland. They do high-end residential, he was looking for a different financial advisor relationship. I was like, you have to talk to Thomas. And he's been thrilled, and I feel like he has in you this like a strategic thought partner, not just for like the retirement side of things.
Yeah, and not even to like go into your dad specifically, but like a lot of business owners are either very, very pessimistic or overly optimistic too, right? And so like for the people that are overly pessimistic, they do need somebody to help them see the light, right? Like, hey, I know you're feeling this, but here's why everything is okay. Here's how everything's getting taken care of. Here's why you're gonna get through this. And then for the optimist, you're kind of like, you are doing some stupid stuff. Like this is, I know you can't see anything bad happening, but here's some stories of clients that I've worked with. Like I have a client who, absolutely killed it 2 years ago and got cocky because of it. Like all of a sudden it was like, if I spend 40% of, for every dollar I spend on advertising, I get 40%. And I'm like, that's not really a stat. That did happen, but that isn't replicable no matter what dollar amount you put in. And so then basically what happened is decided, well, no, actually, like, I think that is replicable, did it, had a terrible year last year, right? And so then this year was kind of like, he was like, that was a slap in the face, a realization for me that like, that is not how it works. And these are good stories for me to share with my clients as well of like, I know you think all this works out perfectly, but this is a risk that you're taking that doesn't make sense. But then on the flip side, the same thing, right? The people who are like pessimistic, nothing's ever gonna work, my business is down right now, it's never gonna get back together. I'll tell you, of the 75 business owner households I work with, at some time they all feel like this is too good to be true. Like that's the hard, I even feel that way. I'm like, everything's gonna collapse. Something's gonna happen. All my clients are gonna leave. I'm never gonna get new ones coming in. And it's helpful to have somebody there for you that's like, I get it. I've literally had this conversation 17 times this week. All of them are fine. I had the same conversations last year as well. Their businesses are up 30% this year, right? But you do kind of need somebody there to help kind of ground you and bring you back to the middle that does have some experience in it.
If I was a client of All Street, like, what's my experience? Take me through a year of being a client of All Street.
I love this actually because I've had a lot of advisors reaching out to me recently asking me to talk more about this kind of stuff. So this is great. So year one and every other year is very different. Year one is heavy lifting. So basically, the one thing that I think is a little unique about us is we will not meet with a client until we have every piece of info from them. And, a lot of advisors are like, how do you get info? I'm like, you don't even get to schedule a call with me until we have everything put in our software, every bank account linked, every credit card linked, every investment account linked, every insurance document in there, last couple of years of tax returns, last 2 years of W-2, end of last year pay stub,
Love that.
most recent pay stub. We give them a checklist. I send them a video of everything we need from them. And before it used to be book the meeting and then hope they do it. And by making that cut of, you want to work with me, you want my help, and they're all trying to get the help as quick as they can. Well, sorry, you have to buy in or we're not meeting with you. So that's part one. We spend about 5 hours prepping before that first call. First call is, let me get to know you, your goals, how you think about money, how you think about debt, what you're worried about, the vision of your life. Because one thing I tell my clients is that, if you have a Fidelity, right, you call, you have a different person every time, you're never getting specific advice to you. My job is that I look through the lens of finance the same way you do, right? Because I can have two clients, the exact same income, the exact same situation, doing the exact opposite things because of their goals, their vision, their life, et cetera. So that meeting's all about that. Second meeting, we're gonna go through all their finances, get as good of understanding as we can. After that call, we get about 90% done with their plan. We sit down for one more meeting where we realize we're maybe missing a couple things. We have some questions we need to go through, and maybe we have some options on their financial plan that we kind of need to go through together. Then the next call is the financial plan delivery. We send it to them 2 days before so they can prep, because we go through cash and surplus and debt and business planning and investment planning and retirement planning and insurance planning and estate planning. We go through every part of finance on that plan. And then at the end of the plan, we have an implementation checklist. So phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Sometimes they're like, I'm so worried about my estate planning, I need to get done, or I'm about to sell a business. So certain things, take priority, but it's typically quick wins, things that add the most value. Then we go through kind of reallocating investments, all of that. Then we go through insurances, then we go through estate planning. So we start to meet about quarterly. So plan delivery, 1 month review. It's called our accountability meeting. We review the plan, make sure it makes sense. If there's any tweaks, we make it. And then we help them start working on phase 1 of implementation. Then we meet quarterly. We're still helping them face things throughout the year. After that, that's year 1. Typically 8 to 10 meetings, I would say. So very, very, very intensive. I would say it's like us putting a lot into the relationship. Year 2, we meet in Q1. We get an update of goals and financials. We're going to give you what your expected owe on taxes, what we assume your Q1 safe harbor payment will be. And then we're going to get you a new financial plan going over cash, surplus, investments, retirement, and then estimated taxes for 2025. Then we meet post-taxes being done. We review your tax return, make sure there's no mistakes. Now we actually know safe harbor for the year. We're doing projections on the business. What are you going to owe above that? How are you saving monthly for all those things? And then we meet in the fall. And, if you have company benefits, we're going to go through company benefits. If we're going through insurances and estate planning every other year, we go through investments and then an end of year tax planning meeting. So it's 3 main review seasons a year. We touch every single topic throughout the year. Email me whenever you want. Like I said, super responsive. Give me a call. You can book time on my calendar. But it's 3 main review seasons with a lot of touch points in the middle of, hey, help me face this. What's going on?
Yeah, I get that work, like for the sort of business, personal finance, like, do you get tied into other sort of more complicated things? Like, are they leaning on you for buy-sell agreements or like?
Yep, that's all under the insurance section.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
So if you're an employee equity comp, strategy for the year, how much before you trigger AMT, maybe you're leaving, are we exercising before they come? NSOs, some of our clients were preparing for IPOs. Business planning, we're talking entity election, we're talking about salary, we're talking about distribution planning, we're talking about buy-sell agreements, we're talking about key man insurance, things like that. We're talking about, giving equity to different employees. We're finding all of your professionals, your tax team, your estate planning. We basically quarterback everything in their financial life.
Sounds like a deal. Sign me up. No, but
sounds like a lot of
Come
work.
on in, man. It is a lot of work. We know it takes on average 30 to 40 hours per client per year. Right. And so my whole team is just my client base though, right? It's not just one advisor, multiple people. It's 3 people, 120 hours a week amongst just my clients. And then we haven't even talked about it yet, but Trade, my co-founder, he does all the distribution of my social now. So he edits my podcast. He gets it onto YouTube. I'll tell him what thread to put out. He'll go schedule it. He'll turn my thread into my newsletter. He kind of owns all of that. I'm trying to get more and more off my plate. So all I do is create new stuff. And he'll do all the redistribution of all the other stuff. And then I have a video editor. So there's a bunch of different things where I can, again, just stay in this lane. And I haven't created any new content before this week in 3 months. This week, I've, both my team members are gone. I put no meetings on the calendar. I've written 10 blog posts, 10 threads. I've written for my podcast, kind of the articles and the things that I'm going to talk about. So I really create social only in my down times of the year and then let everything else get taken care of outside of that.
I got a question for you. This is kind of switching lanes here. You said there were 2 types of business owners, right? One's optimistic, one is pessimistic. What type of business owner are you?
I think it depends on the week.
No. Tell me. You got to pick a side. What type of business owner are you?
I would say probably optimistic.
Optimistic.
I'm naturally an optimistic person, but I still feel the losses more than the wins, right? So I know every once in a while we'll have a client who will be like, I really love the work you do, but I just don't think I have enough complexity anymore for this. Maybe they hired a CEO in their business and they make less money or things. And I might have added 10 clients that month and I'll lose that one. And that's the thing I'll remember.
Yeah, but that's a scientific study. People feel losses 2.5 times more than they feel any wins.
Totally.
So you're going to
Doesn't make
hurt
it easier.
yourself. You know what I mean? You're going to feel it. So given that you're an optimistic business owner, what risks do you see that might be a blind spot to how you're thinking about Wall Street?
Never know with compliance, I guess, right? I'm in the middle of Massachusetts registration because the one downside about being mostly flat fee is because you don't have 100 million AUM, we have to be licensed in every state. So it's every quarter adding a new state, which is just so painful. I do have an outsourced compliance team, which helps on that. So I would say that. I guess social media changing, but we're at the point where like in this last quarter, we probably have 14 or 15 referrals from clients where we don't really even need social media to grow anymore, because the great thing is we bring on a business owner who has partners. We could do better work for you if we work with all the partners, but we'll just start with you. And if you feel like we do great work, refer us. You know, I have one client, he owns a $25 million consulting firm. Started with him. He's referred all 3 partners in this last quarter. You know, I have another person I work with that is a head trader. He makes, $3-4 million a year. He's referred 4 other traders to us. And so like, we just kind of stay in this space where I'm like, I don't pressure you anything. I don't pressure you to make me manage your investments. I don't pressure you to refer me to anybody. Let me just do good work for you. And I'm never even going to ask you for a referral. And so we are getting to the point where so I think it's hard when we're at this point that maybe my biggest risk would be losing key employees.
Yeah, I just think about it as a business owner myself. You know, I always try to put myself in my client's shoes and think from that perspective. So if I'm kind of assessing if people are pessimistic or optimistic, I need to do that work for myself, right?
Yeah.
And I think doing that work for myself helps to resonate more with the client and add to that human aspect as well.
And I think there's always the side of like, what if you lose clients? But I think within the first quarter of working with a client, I can tell you if they'll be there in 2 years. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of people who take us on or join us to get built to everything they need to know, but they were a DIYer themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I think a lot of advisors hate that. I'm very much okay with people working with us on a short term. We build them up and they're going to go do it on their own. And then there's other people who you're like, they come on and you're like, they just want to do everything the same way they've always been doing it. And so it's like, why are we working together if you're just going to do everything? There's no reason to pay me $18,000 a year to make 0 changes.
Right.
It's very rare. But I would say, probably 5% of our clients per year will either graduate out or will just realize, maybe not a great fit. But that just allows me to fill those with better people and better clients.
So you mentioned $1.5 million in profit, 1.2
revenue.
In revenue, 1.2 in profit. Let's talk about like allocation, like where is that revenue coming from, right? Obviously flat fee. You do investments at 35 basis points.
Yeah, but we allow you to move to AUM only if you have enough to cross that 18K fee or that 12K fee. It's a personal choice. I'm like, cross our fee, pay us how you want. I could care less. Some people hate AUM, some people love it. Doesn't matter to me.
Okay, so what is the allocation between both? How much is coming from flat fee? How much from
I would assume this year we'd make just about 100 on AUM. So it's almost all the flat fee.
All flat fee. Yeah, how do you feel about that as you look at
it seems pretty intuitive for
business owners.
For what it is. Yeah, it's like I'm sure you landed on that. Like it was kind of obvious to you, would be my guess.
Well, a couple of things. One is we have business owners who 99% of their wealth's in their business. And then a 401k, right? Like, great. And we have clients who are all real estate. They're real estate professionals. They have real estate businesses. They own real estate. So they're naturally not going to have investments that they would want to be managed. The other thing about it is our business owners pay us through their business. So the 0.35% is the personal fee. The other part's the business planning fee. They're all in the 37% bracket. We have almost 30 clients in California. They're paying a 50% marginal rate. They'd much rather pay 18K through their business and get to deduct that than do it a different way.
No, it's completely understand. But when you think about like future value of the business, a lot of the multiples are based on recurring revenue.
Which is what ours is.
From assets under management, right? So how do you think about those conversations? You don't have to think about them now, but I'm sure you're thinking about that.
There are some flat fee firms with 8 to 12x revenue multiples out there. It's really, retention rate, how long are people sticking with you? And I don't know if it really makes a difference, whether it's coming out of assets or it's coming out of their business. It doesn't to me. It's still coming the same way. And so to be honest, like I didn't build the business to think about the sale value. I built the business to really enjoy what I do. And so like I look at, some of my business owner clients would be like, should I sell my business? I'm like, for 3x profit, you could just hire a CEO and let this business run forever and make more money doing that, right? Like I just don't see a world where I'm anywhere near thinking about selling a business. The only way I would ever sell is if I was like Jason. I was like, I have this passion. I want to go build something different. And I don't think the sale value is going to be bad.
So if somebody wants to replicate the business or build a business that they provide high value service, high touch points, right? Where do they start if they're listening to this podcast? Because what you're doing is not the status quo. Yep. It's not the norm, right? And it's a business that's growing extremely fast. faster than some advisors might grow in the next 10 years, right? When you really look at the percentage increase in growth from just the last time we recorded a podcast to now. So with that being said, what are some of the tenets or like the cornerstones in building a business like this?
I love that question. I think, one part of it is like, stop getting stuck in the, we're on the Altruist podcast. I love Altruist, but like, stop getting stuck in like do I have the right solutions tech wise? I find, I'm in the XY community group. There's all these people and they're always just talking about like, should I switch from Right Capital to eMoney? Should I switch from this to this? And I'm like, you're not losing clients. You're not getting clients because when you show them eMoney that they don't like it as much as Right Capital. There's two things I recommend to everybody. One of them is study everything you possibly can. That was the thing that I did. I talk to people all the time. They're like, I'm super impressed by your knowledge base in this area. How did you learn it? I just went and learned it, right? I was like, right, I'm going to just focus on a topic area. I'm going to learn everything I can about it for a month, and I'm going to move to the next one. I'm going to go to YouTube. I'm going to go to podcasts. I'm not going to really read books. I'm more of an audio listener, I'll be honest here. And then I'm going to go write about it, and then I'm going to go speak about it, and then I'm going to go help clients on it. And you end up becoming really good in every single area by doing that. And then if there's an area where I can't find the info, I'm going to go seek out somebody and ask them about it.
Use your podcast to bring on experts for your own
and that was amazing.
knowledge gaps.
It really was amazing for me. And I think this is twofold. You do that and then teach people about it publicly, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think at the end of the day, right, somebody can either say, I have a referral to an advisor. Yeah, I'm going to go reach out to them. Or I've followed somebody that has spoke to me specifically over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. He probably knows how to help me. And so I think if you learn everything you need to learn and then you teach people everything they need to learn, you're probably going to end up growing a business from it.
So you have All Street Academy, which
Yeah.
is your video course. I think it's like between $150 and $300, something like that for, 12
it's
hours
like,
of video or something,
it's like
like that.
$300 or something.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. Like, is that more of a, hey, let's make all this useful information super accessible, or is it a funnel actually into your...
It was never to be. I think, when we named All Street, it was like to help everybody, right? And then that's not necessarily who we work with now. And so like I have social media is free. If you want a little bit better than that package course, here's a course. My goal is never to make money on it. And I don't market it because at the end of the day, right, like if a course is $300 and I own a third of that, I got to sell a lot of courses to cover one client. And my brand is all about, let me give everything I can away for free. And so advisors also tell me can you do more courses for advisors, but where do I market it? It's a terrible use of my social media time to market to a different group. Mm-hmm. And so, one, time is a big thing there. And two, it really is just about social media. But that way I have free, that way I have a low level. I have, one that's, one meeting, one plan. You're not meant to work with us long-term. You're more basic, $3,500. We're gonna get all your info. We're 90 minutes. I'm gonna give you a financial plan of everything you need to do. Go do that for years. Then we have a full financial plan model, 10,000 for employees, 12,000 for business owners. A lot of DIYers do that. And then they come back every few years as things change. And then we have an ongoing. So any specific level you could be in, I have a way to help you. And I think that was more so the vision.
Do you think that people get confused with the amount of choices,
No.
Or
pretty much everybody does ongoing because I don't market the one meeting plan one. It's somebody applies and I know that they're they make $250,000. I'm like, it doesn't make any sense for you to pay me $10,000. Like that, there's no way you have enough complexity for it. Here's your two options. This one is shorter. We can address a few main things, or we can do a full financial plan. Here's a video going over it. Which one do you prefer? But we're probably 85% ongoing, and then about 15% do financial plans, which is great, right? Because when I hit capacity of ongoing meetings, we'll use those downtimes per year just to do financial plans. Mm-hmm. I'll keep scaling the fee. We'll do 12 and 15 or something, and maybe even higher than that. So that means if I could do 15 of those a year at 15 to 20K, my entire team is covered just from financial plans per year. And what I loved about that is we have all the ongoing clients, all the financial plans. My team gets really good, right? Like Ryan, he got to see 150 financial plans at least done in the last year and a half. You're going to learn financial planning pretty well doing that.
Yeah. Okay, last question for you from me. You're a young guy like me, right? Like all of us here at this table. We have a lot of work left to do, a lot of career left to grow. We have a high ceiling. What are you most excited about your firm, about the industry? What are you looking forward to?
I think this is still new to me, right? Like serving who I serve, I almost like fell into it. Like I like just starting, I eventually got a few business owner clients and I realized that I really, really love it. So I'm really excited how a lot of my clients sell their businesses and get to do some really fun things. So like I just got a client this week. He's a referral from 3 other clients that I have. They're all friends. They were at a conference and they were talking about it. And he was like, I'm really excited to sit down and you tell me I can buy this $100,000 car. And I was like, great. Like, that's awesome. Like, I help my clients get to spend more and enjoy their life and, you know, without spending too much, because it's really hard to be like, you know, I make $2 million a year. I'm worth a lot of money. Can I buy a $4 million house? That feels gross. They grew up without money, right? Like every decision their parents had to make was about what's optimal, and that's rooted in their mind. And I get to help change that to them and be like, how much can you spend with being totally fine? And I have a lot of fun doing that. And I think it's going to be really fun to watch, you know, all of my clients, you know, their kids get older, provide really cool things for them, sell their businesses, pass them on to their kids. And, you know, it's kind of something I want to do, to be honest. Like long term, like I would love to have my kids, you know, be a part of my business. You know, I would never force them into it because I think, you know, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But like, I just want to show them how much I love doing what I do, how much fun I have doing it, how much impact I get to have, because we have that unique industry where you add so much value. People are very, very grateful for the value you provide. You get a really good life. You get compensated really well and you get to have a lot of fun. I couldn't think about, you know, doing something better. And so like being able to potentially do that with my kids, like my dad gets to work as the outsourced CFO for some of my clients and we get to work together. It's just a cool relationship. And I don't see that changing. That's why I don't think about sale value, because, you know, I have a 4-day weekend. I'm like, I'm ready to get back to work. Like, you know, I like hanging out. I like, you know, going on vacations. I like traveling, I like having downtime. But I also really get, you know, I'm really intelligent. No, I'm stimulated by the work that I get to do.
There's a lot of problem solving.
And, you know, it always is. It's different. Every business owner is different. And so I think that it's just a lot of fun that I'm just excited to keep doing it until I don't like it.
I think that is a phenomenal note to end on, Thomas.
Yes, sir.
Thanks so much for coming to LA, for joining us in the studio.
Yeah.
That was a great conversation. A lot to be gleaned for everybody listening. You'll be able to find this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere where you can find podcasts, you'll be able to find this. We will be releasing it on YouTube. That's to come. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
thanks
a
for
wrap.
having me,
Thanks a
Thanks,
lot.
guys.
It's a wrap. Thank you for listening to The Advisor Journey by Altruist. Brokerage-related products and services are provided by Altruist Financial LLC, a member of FINRA/SIPC. Results may vary. Altruist and its affiliates do not provide tax or legal advice.